Imagine discovering someone who looks exactly like her. Same eyes, same smile, even the same scar. He calls himself her twin, but she's always been an only child. What follows is not a reunion. It's the beginning of something far older, darker, and far more terrifying than family secrets. Welcome back to Silent Scream, where nightmares bleed into reality. Tonight's story follows a young woman who learns the impossible, that her so-called twin might not be human at all. Stay with us until the very end, because what she discovers will leave you questioning your own reflection. On a rainy Tuesday evening, she saw him for the first time. He stood across the street, drenched in rain, staring straight at her. The shock wasn't in his presence, it was in his face. He looked exactly like her. Same green eyes, same slant of a smile, even the small scar beneath his left eyebrow. When he crossed the street, her pulse raced. His smile widened as though he'd been waiting. "I'm your twin brother," he said. Her laugh was shaky. She'd nervously said, "That's impossible. I'm an only child." He didn't argue. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, worn photograph. Two babies sat side by side. One was unmistakably her, the other, him. She should have turned and walked away. She should have screamed, thrown the picture, done anything but stand frozen. But something in her blood whispered otherwise. Something older than family, older than memory. Something that told her he wasn't lying. And that whisper felt like a warning. From that night onward, her life began to unravel. Sleep abandoned her. Each night, when she closed her eyes, she dreamed of the same place. A dark room with no windows, no doors, and a single candle flickering on a dusty table. Across from her sat the man, her twin, though sometimes his features warped, too sharp, too hollow, like his face wasn't built to stay human for long. During the day, he followed her, not always directly, but always there. She spotted him in the corner of a cafe, leaning against a lamppost outside her apartment, walking through the grocery store aisles without buying a single thing. People around him never seemed to notice. To them, he was invisible. To her, he was inescapable. He knew things no stranger could ever know. He recited details of her life, her first pet's name, the scar she earned at 8 years old when she fell off her bike, the lullaby her mother used to hum when she couldn't sleep. He spoke of them casually, as though he hadn't been told, but had lived them. When she demanded to know how, he only smiled. "Because I was there." Her rational mind fought back. This isn't real. This is stress, delusion, lack of sleep. But then came the scratches. Faint red marks on her arms each morning, as though nails had dragged across her skin while she slept. Worse, mirrors began betraying her. Sometimes her reflection didn't blink when she did. Sometimes it smiled when she was frozen in terror. Once, while brushing her teeth, she saw herself in the mirror whisper something, though her lips had not moved. The terror was suffocating. Yet strangest of all, she couldn't entirely hate him. Something about him tugged at her bones like a magnet to iron. A voice in the back of her mind whispered that maybe he wasn't lying. Maybe he truly was part of her in ways she didn't yet understand. Her world began to twist. One night he cornered her under a dim street lamp. "Why are you doing this?" she cried, voice shaking. His hand touched her shoulder, ice cold, colder than anything living. "I told you already. We belong together. You just don't remember." "Remember what?" He slipped a folded paper into her hand. Her stomach churned. The jagged handwriting was unmistakable. It was her own, but the date scrawled at the top was from years before she could even write. The words chilled her. "Do not let him find you. He is not what he seems." Her hands trembled. "I didn't write this." "Yes, you did," he interrupted, eyes gleaming. "Not now. Before." That night her dream changed. She wasn't alone in the candlelit room anymore. Shadows stretched across the walls, whispering in tongues she couldn't understand. Across from her, her own reflection leaned forward and mouthed words she couldn't hear. But the urgency in her reflection's eyes told her it was a warning. When she woke, new words were carved into her bedroom wall. "You cannot run from him. You never could." The next morning she tried to leave. Her door refused to open. The lock turned, the knob rattled, but the door felt solid as stone, and through the peephole, he stood in the hallway, smiling, waiting. By the third night, she was too terrified to sleep. But exhaustion won, and she opened her eyes to find him standing in her apartment. Not in a dream, this time, here. His eyes glowed faintly, as though fire burned behind them. "You're scared," he said softly. "Good. Fear makes you remember." She tried to run, but the walls warped around her. Wherever she turned, he was closer. "I don't want you," she screamed. His grin stretched wider, almost splitting his face. "I'm not your brother. I'm what came before. Your parents tried to hide me, but I chose you." Shadows surged behind him, twisting into figures with screaming mouths and clawed hands. One reached for her face, its touch colder than ice. Memory struck like lightning. She saw her parents before her birth, performing a ritual they should never have attempted. A bargain. A curse. And she was born carrying it. He was no twin. He was the other half of what had been bound to her since before she took her first breath. The walls melted into the dream room, the candle burning on the table between them. Her reflection whispered again. This time, she understood. "He isn't separate. He's you." Her knees buckled. Her reflection's smile widened, identical to his. And when the candle went out, darkness swallowed everything. When she opened her eyes, she was back in her bed. Or maybe she wasn't. The notes were no longer on the wall. They were carved into her skin. "You cannot escape what is in your blood. It was never your choice. We are one." Morning light spilled through the blinds. For one breathless moment, everything seemed normal. Her apartment was still, silent. Maybe it had all been a dream. But then, she looked in the mirror. At first, her reflection stared back, tired, pale, but normal. Then, it smiled. Not her smile, his smile. Her blood froze. In the corner of the room, a shadow shifted, lingering, watching, and carved into the wood of her nightstand were the words, "We are one. You cannot hide." Her throat tightened. She blinked, and when her eyes opened again, she wasn't sure who was standing in her skin anymore, her or him.
and somewhere in the silence, she heard her own voice whisper back, "We've always been waiting."
Her twin wasn't real. Or maybe he was too real, a part of her that could never be separated. Was he family, or was he fate? If this story chilled you, leave a like, subscribe for more tales from the shadows, and tell us in the comments, what would you do if the reflection in your mirror smiled back at you first?